Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. I am Franco Baranda. It's Tuesday, the 15th day of August, and you're watching Newsline World. We're here to bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. First, Pastor Polo C. Kibuloy delves into world's most controversial issues in the latest episode of Spotlight. In Niger, deposed President Mohamed Bazoum will face high treason charges as promised by the junta military. Tensions in the Black Sea is higher than ever after Russia fired warning shots at a cargo ship weeks after the UN-brokered grain deal expired. A Philippine lawmaker raises concerns on suggestions of the Philippines boycotting Chinese products. What does the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel have to say about this? Let's find out more about that later on. And anger over the apocalyptic devastation brought by wildfires in Maui, Hawaii continues to grow amid the rising death toll with over 1,000 people still missing. These and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. The government is still taking a fresh commitment to combat the proliferation of online cockfighting, also known as Isabong operation in the Philippines. MJ Mondihar reports.
The president already made an instruction that Isabong in this country should be closed. So I'd like to find out if it is still within the mandate of PAGCOR, because you have the mandate of all online gamblings. So I'd like to find out if you still have that mandate as far as Isabong is concerned.
This is a question posed by Manila Representative Benny Abante during the 2024 budget hearing of the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation of PAGCOR. The agency is mandated to regulate all online gambling and casino operations in the Philippines. PAGCOR ranks among the top 3 agencies contributing funds to the national government. However, lawmakers pointed out the alarming rising cases of gambling among youth.
In our district, I have encountered a number of teenagers who committed suicide. And interviewing the families, they would often claim that they became addicted to cell phone online games.
Dito sa Facebook, pag sinearch mo ang mga katagang online sabong, automatic lalabas yung mga opsyon na inuobliga ka o inuudyo ka na pumusta sa isabong. Ang mga operasyon na ito ay matagal na pinagbawal ng pamahalaan mula po noong administrasyon ni dating Pangulong Duterte. In response, PAGCOR Chairman and CEO Al Tenco says,
illegal na po ang isabong sa Pilipinas. Yes, PAGCOR had the jurisdiction then, but because of the directive of Congress of then President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, hinto na po yun. We have already canceled all the isabong licenses that we have issued. In fact, we have given back the refund of our licensees for their mga deposits or cash deposits, yung bond, cash bond deposits. So, wala na po.
However, online cockfighting is still very much alive on the internet and social media platforms like Facebook.
Nagbibigay kami ng informasyon na nakakalap namin sa iba't ibang ahensya. Pangunahin na po doon ang DICT sapagkat sila po ang mayroong karapatang magputol ng connectivity ng kanilang mga .com. Unfortunately, at nakakalungkot po, bagamat di kami nagsasawa sa pagsubaybay, after 2 days, maputol mo yung .com nila, meron na namang ibang pangalan.
PAGCOR admits they do not possess police powers against Isabong. However, they emphasize their strong coordination with government agencies to fight it. And they affirm that the government will not cease its efforts to take it down, as President Bongbong Marcos does not allow Isabong operations to continue.
Pakiusap ko lang po muli, sana tumupad na tayo sa kung anong sinasaad ng batas at hinihiling ng batas. Ihinto na po natin ang illegal na isabong sa bansa. Hindi po ito pinapayagan ng Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Kaya po mahigpit namin pinatutupad ang utos niya na hindi dapat magkaroon at dapat itigil na ang isabong sa ating bansa.
PAGCOR supports rehabilitation centers to help those addicted to gambling turn their lives around. With that, the Philippine National Police, or PNP, is true to their commitment in suppressing the remaining isabong operations in the country. For Ganamabul of Philippines, I'm Jay Mondihar, SMNI News.
Some parents opposed to the large transport group's appeal for a 2 pesos hike in jeepney's minimum fare, especially now that school is approaching. For now, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, will further study the said appeal. Jason Robrico has the details.
Dave, who is in grade 11 this upcoming school year, will have less allowance, as said by his mother, Mrs. Catherine. That's after she heard about the transport group's appeal of a 2 peso fare hike in jeepney rides amid the continuous increase in the price of petroleum products. For Mrs. Catherine, jeepney drivers should not increase the minimum hike, especially now that the price of basic goods and food products is also increasing.
Siyempre, kasi dati may pamasahin silang mura, tapos may pangong sila. Ngayon, mababawas na parang ano lang mabibili. Biscuit. Ang mga gamit nga nila, wala pa rin nga. Sobrang hirap na talaga.
Wala pong choice kung pagkano lang po ibigay, yun lang po yung baon na matatanggap.
For the single-parent Mrs. Baby, the transport group's appeal to increase the jeep fare by 2 pesos will be a burden, as she has 2 elementary students and 2 more who are currently in college. So she called on the government to find a solution to stop the surging prices of petroleum products and for wages to also increase.
Hindi po siya siguro dapat sa ngayon kasi ang hirap ng sitwasyon ng buhay. So kung mangyayari man yun, siguro po dapat mataas na rin yung sahod ng mga nagtatrabaho kahit sa gobyerno o sa kumpanya.
According to the Liga ng Transportasyon at Operators ng Pilipinas, one of the 3 major transport groups that sought for a fare increase, that while they respect the opinions of commuters, they are still asking for their understanding as to why they are pushing for a hike.
Napakalaki po yung adjustment na itinaas ng mga krudo, gasolina, langis, baterya, gulong, spare parts at saka yung mga basic commodities natin. Kaya masama man ang loob namin na gawin po ito, kaya lang ho, alin kayang mas magandang gawin namin? Tumigil na lang ba kami sa pamamasada o i-continuous namin na mag-akyat kami ng konting presyo?
It was on Friday morning, August 11, when LTOP together with FEDJADAP, Piston and Stop and Go Transport Coalition submitted a letter to the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board Office to appeal for a 2 peso fare price increase. These groups are requesting the LTFRB to implement the Memorandum Circular 2019-035. The Section 4 of the said memorandum specifies that the agency may implement an automatic fare increase when the price of the petroleum products is highly increased. The document also states that it does not need to go through public hearing or any special proceedings. Meanwhile, the LTFRB will study the said appeal. LTFRB Chairperson Attorney Teofilo Guadis III said there are many factors to consider when reviewing fare hike petitions or requests, so he said it needs to be studied carefully. The LTFRB Chairperson also said the agency understands the situation and that's why they will convene to find out if the fare hike request has merit. Should the LTFRB approve the automatic fare increase request, the minimum fare will increase from 12 pesos to 14 pesos. And this week, oil companies announced another price increase in the prices of petroleum products for August 15. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
An economist and legislator have explained that if the Philippines boycotts products made in China as a protest against the harassment by the Chinese Coast Guard on Philippines ships in the West Philippine Sea, it could potentially result in price increases for goods. Here's the report by Jade Calabroso.
According to Albay's 2nd District Representative Joey Salceda, chairman of the House Committee on Ways and Means, boycotting Chinese products could lead to a rise in the prices of goods. Salceda's statement comes after Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri suggested boycotting Chinese products in response to the Chinese Coast Guard's water cannon incident against the Philippine Coast Guard ship during a resupply mission at Ayungin Shoal.
Yung practical, tataas ang presyo kasi sa ngayon halos $50 billion ang trade deficit natin sa China. Ibig sabihin, based sa actual, based sa reported, actually ang ating pong trade deficit lang ay mga 12. Pero actually pag tinignan mo yung UNCTAD, yung pinapadala din China kasama na yung mga smuggled sa Subic, sa lahat, halos yung buong OFW remittances natin pambayad lang natin sa trade deficit natin sa China. Kaso mura yung kanila eh. So, ang number one mangyayari yan, ipuputok ang ating po inflation. Yun lang ang takot ko.
Apart from China, the legislator suggests expanding trade relations with various countries.
Essentially, China is subsidizing our inflation rate. So, we are in a bind. So, that means the administration has to be more creative and innovative in both commingling the political as well as the economic o the geopolitical and economic interest of the Philippines. Siguro ang una dyan, i-diversify natin ang ating pong trade relations. Kasama na po dyan yung pagiging miyembro na magkaroon ng mas maraming bilateral arrangements like India, kung saan pwede natin makakuha ng ganun kamura ng mga produkto, mga bilateral sa mga kaibigan katulad ng ASEAN para sa ating bigas. Pero yung iba, lalo-lalo yung mga light manufactured products, ultimong Christmas light mo galing China.
Meanwhile, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile disagreed with the proposal to boycott Chinese products. This is because aside from the government's debt to China, the Philippines exports to China and many Filipinos work in the country. Enrile stressed that China has provided significant aid to the Philippines, especially during the previous administration.
Okay sa akin, okay yun, lahat yan okay. Pero, ano ang countermeasure ng China?
Yes.
Magkano ang export natin sa China?
Correct. I was about to say.
Ilan ang OFW natin sa China?
Yun.
Magkano ang utang natin sa China? At magkano ang ayuda ng China sa atin?
He suggests that the government needs to ensure the Philippines can match China's strength and resources, particularly in terms of force and equipment, before making such statements.
Kailangan meron tayo pwersa. Gastusan natin ang pwersa natin. Ang rinirespeto lang ng mga bansa na malalakas ay ilan ba aeroplano mo? Ilan ba ang water cannon mo? Ilan ba ang Coast Guard mo? Meron ka bang jet ski na pumunta sa akin? Meron ka bang Silianes na pwede kong utusan?
A survey conducted by Octa Research from July 22 to 27 shows that 7 out of 10 Filipinos prefer a peaceful and diplomatic approach to asserting the Philippines' territorial rights in the West Philippine Sea. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNI News.
China slammed the foreign media for consistently bad-mouthing the Belt and Road Forum, which will be held in the country sometime this year. Jillian Libuit has the details.
China's state media rejected a claim by the Western media that some developed nations prefer not to attend the Third Belt and Road Forum for international cooperation expected to be held sometime this year. Amid reports that developed nations will not be included in the event, China's state media explained most of the leaders invited this year came from developing nations or emerging economies. This is because China is interested not on scale and quantity, but rather on quality and effectiveness. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to be present in the said forum after attending the same event in 2017 and 2019 in Beijing. Adopted in 2013, the Belt and Road Initiative seeks to connect China with the rest of the world via land and maritime networks with the aim of improving regional integration, increasing trade, and stimulating economic growth. Critics perceive the ambitious Belt and Road Initiative as a tool for China to expand its geopolitical and economic influence worldwide. No date has been set yet, but the forum is likely to take place in China this September. Reporting from New South Wales, this has been Gillian Libowit, SMNI News, Australia.
And now, on Pastor's News of Russia. And here we go again. Pastor urges Russia-Ukraine. Also, Pastor talked about the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine and said that both parties to find a peaceful solution without any interference. The good pastor also delved into the years of persecution of Russian-speaking Ukrainians in Donbass, a persisting problem that has not been covered by the Western media. The good pastor also talked about what's behind Russia's demilitarization and denazification under its so-called special military operations. Let's take a look.
Go back to the root of the problem. Go back to the root of the problem without interference from others. Go back to the root of what is the root of the problem? Once upon a time, USSR was one. And Ukraine is part of the United Soviet Socialist Republic. They are only one. Like the US, all states are one. This is the USSR. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And Ukraine is one of them. And they are borders only with Russian land. So they are considered brothers. So, during this time, there is no boundary between Russia and Ukraine. So, Russian-speaking people also are now in the boundary we call Ukraine. When there was already the dismantling of the USSR, they all became states by themselves. They all became nations by themselves. That's why there's already a demarcation between Russian land and Ukraine land. But during the USSR period, there are only one. So there are Russian-speaking people now who are in the Ukrainian territories. We call Donbass region, which is Luhansk, Donetsk, and other like Zaporizhia or others. They are the ones that are still speaking Russian. Because once upon a time, they were together. And so, now, nagkaroon ng conflict dyan because Ukraine wanted to really become identified by their own culture. Separating them from Russian culture. They went to the extreme of saying, we don't want to hear Russian-speaking people here. Don't speak Russian here. Culture of Russia here. No more, no more, no more, no more. Separate. How can you separate this? These are Russian-speaking people that are in the territory of Ukraine called Donbass. That's why they were persecuted before. And it was not reported in the Western media that these Donbass Russian-speaking people now in the territory of Ukraine have been persecuted. They were bombed by the Zelensky government. 14,000 na yung namatay dyan. Hindi na re-report yan. E nagre-reklamo sila ngayon doon kay Putin. Tulungan mo naman kami kasi mga Russian kami. Oh, magkatabi lang tayo. 14 years tiniis ni Putin yan. O 8 years ba yun? Tiniis niya. Hanggang sa gumawa sila ng tinatawag na agreement. O si Zelensky, initialed it. Yung Minsk agreement. Na they still belong to Ukraine, pero parang autonomous sila. Tulad ng ginagawa ng China sa Hong Kong, sa Macau. Autonomous, but they still belong there. Pero huwag niyo galawin ang kanilang lingwahe kasi Russian sila pati yung kultura nila yun ang gustong erasin ng Zelensky ng Ukraine. Di doon nagkaroon ng conflict, nag-away na. Dito sila nagpapatulong kay Putin. Ganon din doon sa Crimea. Russian-speaking din ang mga tao doon. Ganon din ang ginagawa. Pine-persecute sila. Kung ayaw niyo dito, balik kayo sa Russia. Paano lang iwan lupa nila yun?
Pastor Polo also talked about how the situation in Ukraine has become a proxy war between Russia and the West, and how the current leadership of Ukraine was pressured.
Kaya, nag-agreement. Yung mixed agreement na pinirmahan ni Zelensky at ng Russian Federation gumawa. Pero, pumasok itong tagapaggulo. Ayaw niya. Kami susuporta sa iyo. Basta huwag yan. Ginawang proxy war ngayon. Siya ginamit. Na-pressure siya. Kasi hindi naman siya statesman o politician. Comedian siya. Nadala. Nang nadala siya, ayun, pinagpatuloy. Hanggang itong mga nagrereklamo, pinapatay. Napuno ngayon si Vladimir Putin. Ang ginawa niya, sabi niya, alisin natin sa isang military operations itong mga nanggugulong mga neo-Nazis. Alam niyo sa World War II, ang Russia at ang Germany, kaaway yan. Pati na yung mga allies. Pero ang maraming namatay talaga para sa World War at ang nakapanalo talaga sa World War, hindi yung British o Amerika, ang Russia. 30 million people ang namatay sa Russia para salubungin lang si Hitler. Sila talaga yung pumasok ngayon nung nagapi si Hitler sa Germany. Kaya sila talaga yung nakagapi kay Hitler. Pero naging mabait pa rin sila, binigay pa rin nila sa allies yung division kung saan sila dapat. Ito yung British, ito yung American, ito yung Russian. Ganon ang nangyari. So, ang nangyari ngayon, nagkaroon ng military operations, special military operation para gapiin ang mga neo-Nazis na sa army na siyang pumapatay sa mga Russian-speaking people. Hindi in-honor yung Minsk Agreement. Hindi in-honor na pinirmahan. Umatras na yung mga Russian noon nung pinirmahan yun nagpagit na itong tagapagulo. Hindi ko lang ibabanggitin ng pangalan, baka magalit lalo sa akin. Hindi, nagpagit na. Hindi, nagpatuloy ang gera. Ang isip ni Putin ngayon, special operation. Alisin sila na gumagapi doon sa mga, at saka ang kanyang kondisyon ngayon is i-release na ng Ukraine itong mga teritoryo ng Donbas na Russian-speaking people. Tapos ang gulo.
Russia's recent firing of warning shots at a cargo ship in the Black Sea intensifies tensions following its exit from a UN grain deal with Ukraine. Jane Cognita has the details.
Just recently, a Russian warship fired warning shots at a cargo ship, Sukhoi, in the Black Sea. This marks Russia's first such action against merchant ships beyond Ukrainian waters since leaving a crucial unbrokered grain agreement. Russia suspended its participation in the grain deal, alleging potential weapons on ships bound for Ukrainian waters. The Vasily Bykov patrol ship fired warning shots at the ship called Sukhoi after its captain ignored an inspection request. Despite Russia's claim that the ship was headed to a Ukrainian port, definitive shipping data indicated otherwise. Russian military personnel boarded the vessel with a helicopter, allowing it to continue to the port of Ismail after inspection. Ukrainian officials condemned the incident, and tensions between the two countries have escalated since Russia's withdrawal from the grain deal. The event has raised concerns in shipping and commodity markets due to the Black Sea significance for agricultural trade between Russia and Ukraine. Both countries are major players in global grain and oilseed markets. As tensions persist, global markets remain wary of disruptions to agricultural commodity flows and potential broader implications for the region's stability. Reporting, this has been Jane Conita, SMNI News.
The military junta in Niger has announced its intention to prosecute deposed President Mohamed Bazoum on charges of high treason and undermining national security, indicating a steadfast resistance to international appeals for his reinstatement. Let's find out more about this report from Carlo de la Peña.
The ongoing power struggle in Niger takes a new turn as the country's military junta solidifies its position against global pressure to reinstate former President Mohamed Bazoum. Amid the Western demands for his release, the junta has declared its intention to charge Bazoum with high treason and for jeopardizing both domestic and international security. Deposed Nigerian President Bazoum, who has been detained in the basement of his palace since the military coup that took place on July 26th, received a visit from his doctor recently. Despite the challenging conditions of his confinement, the doctor reported that Bazoum remained in good spirits. Concerns have been growing over the health of Bazoum, his wife, and his son, who are all detained with him. The junta, in a statement broadcast on state television, revealed its collection of evidence to prosecute the deposed president and his local and foreign accomplices for high treason and undermining the internal and external security of Niger. Details regarding the evidence were not provided. General Abdurrahmani Tiani, who led the Presidential Guards unit, was installed as Niger's new ruler on July 26 after successfully orchestrating the coup that removed Bazoum from power. While the West African Regional Bloc, the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, had threatened military intervention to reverse the coup, it has yet to take concrete action. The junta, for its part, has warned against any intervention and has faced sanctions from ECOWAS, including the suspension of electricity supply to Niger, leading to blackouts in the capital city and other major urban centers. In an effort to mediate the crisis, a delegation of influential Muslim clerics from neighboring Nigeria held talks with junta leaders in Niamey. The junta-appointed Prime Minister, Ali Mahamane Lamini Zaini, expressed optimism about future talks with ECOWAS to address the sanctions. The situation in Niger echoes similar power shifts in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali, occurring amid heightened Russian influence in the Sahel region. However, huge protests in support of the military were seen on the streets of Niamey, while Niger locals as well as the neighboring countries of Mali and Burkina have warned that any intervention by other West African nations would be a declaration of war against them as well. On the other hand, Bazoum, while in captivity, managed to publish an article in the Washington Post and called for the U.S. to intervene. Reports indicate that Bazoum's health has deteriorated and his son's medical condition has been exacerbated. To recall, Bazoum's only post-coup appearance was with Chad's leader, Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, but mediation efforts failed. And last week, two Western officials spoke to the AP shortly before the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, said it had ordered the deployment of what it calls as an intervention force to restore Bazoum to power after its deadline expired on Sunday. The two Western officials also said that Niger coup leaders told U.S. Acting Deputy Secretary of State Victoria Nuland that they would kill Bazoum if ECOWAS uses any military force. Reporting, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Death toll from the devastating wildfire in the Hawaiian island of Maui has jumped to 98 as search for the missing continues, making it the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. Devi Suarez reports.
Hawaiian locals might have escaped apocalyptic wildfires in Maui, but residents are currently facing another threatening scenario. Looters are now targeting residents at night, stealing their lost worldly possessions after the historic town was reduced to ashes by the deadly blazes. People have reported of being robbed at gunpoint, despite some police presence in the area.
I'm trying not to get emotional, but it's getting bad out here because, lastly, I want to ask, and I doubt any of you that follow me would ever do this, but there are people actually looting in Lahaina. There are people stealing from people's houses who already lost everything. So if you are one of those people, just please, we lost enough already.
Authorities warn the death toll is likely to rise as cadaver dogs continue searching for human remains under the charred ruins in the historic town of Lahaina. So far, only 3% of the affected area have been searched as of Sunday. Hawaii Governor Josh Green estimated the extent of the damage at nearly $6 billion. Meanwhile, the mayor of Maui County, Richard Bison, was questioned on why the emergency warning sirens failed to activate when the deadly wildfires raged across the island on Tuesday, August 8.
Generally speaking, we do not have sirens for fires. Okay. I don't know if anybody in any other state does. The sirens tell you to go in and turn on your television and listen to the news reports. It's usually for tsunami warnings and hurricanes. We don't want people, if there's a fire, going back into their home and turning on their TV. We'd rather they take evasive action. So I think there's a lot of talk about people maybe misunderstanding the purpose.
However, his explanation was not enough for people who lost their loved ones, home and other material possessions, as anger among residents grows. Efforts to find and identify victims is still in its early stages, as the island and the international community wait for more updates in the coming days. Reporting from New South Wales, this is David Suarez, SMNI News, Australia.
Floods and landslides triggered by heavy monsoon rains in Myanmar forced around 48,000 people to flee from their homes. Chatmongkon Pisamay Goson reports.
5 people have died and some 60,000 people have been displaced by the heavy rains and floods in Myanmar since mid-July. Yellow-brown water submerged large areas of villages and farmland in the southwestern state of Yakai, affecting crops and livelihood. 9 states across the country have been affected since late July. Although it is natural Myanmar to experience monsoon rainfall every year, scientists believe that climate change played a role in intensifying these natural disasters. Despite the ongoing political crisis and the onslaught of natural and man-made disasters, the resilience and determination of the people in Myanmar shines through, and they hope for better days ahead. Just a few hundred miles from Myanmar, at least 55 people have died and more than 1 million have been affected by 2 weeks of torrential rains resulting into floods and landslides in southeast Bangladesh. รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลวิสมัยโกศล SMNI ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
Pro-democracy protesters in Thailand hold rallies to express their opposition toward a blossoming alliance that aims to form the next government and break the ongoing political deadlock. Anissa de Guzman has the details.
Dozens of vehicles stormed the headquarters of Puatai and Bumchaitai to protest their newly formed partnership together with military-linked political parties. About 50 vehicles gathered on both headquarters. They have criticized Puatai and Bumchaitai for potentially teaming up with political parties connected to the May 2014 coup d'etat. The protesters also demanded for Puatai to restore its coalition partnership with Move Forward Party or MFP. Puatai ended its alliance from the 8-party coalition earlier this month after MFP leader Pita Limjaronrat fell short of the majority required to be elected as Prime Minister and form a new government. The populist political party founded by the billionaire Shinawat family hopes that building a fresh coalition and finding new partners will help it overcome resistance from military and pro-royalist senators to break the political deadlock. Their rallies took place as obstacles in choosing Thailand's 30th enters third month. Di siya Anissa de Guzman, Rengan Chakontep Mahanakon, SMNI News, Pratat Thai, Sawadika.
More news when Newsline World returns. South Koreans flocked together to voice out their strong opposition of Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge. Ivy Astilio files this report.
Over 100,000 South Koreans in multiple cities all over South Korea held a rally voicing out their strong opposition of Japan's plan to dump nuclear wastewater into the sea. South Koreans coming from different civil groups united in downtown Seoul with signs and banners denouncing the impending wastewater discharge. According to the Korea Federation of Environmental Movements, one of the largest civil groups in Korea, it has received more than 350,000 signatures from people against the discharge plan. Citizens expressed great dissatisfaction to Japan's plan as saying that it is setting a bad example for other countries and that such a move will give other nations to the option follows Japan's actions in dumping nuclear wastewater into the sea. Locals are also encouraging people from other countries to voice out their opinions regarding the matter, especially as it involves the marine environment.
그럴 경우에는 다른 나라에서도 계속해서 이거를 부을 수 있는 전례가 되기 때문에 절대 안 된다고 생각을 하고 일본 정부의 말만 오케이 할 게 아니라 정말로 이것이 우리 국민들이나
전 세계 국가들이 그에 합당한 목소리를 내고 일본 정부의 이 해고염수 투입이 안 된다라는 명확한 반대의 목소리를 전달해야 된다고 생각합니다.
Local reports say Japan will soon start releasing nuclear wastewater into the ocean as soon as late August. Ijo Ivy Astilio, Nihon kara hokokote shimashita. SMNI News, Japan.
The United Arab Emirates slammed allegations reported by media sources that it has been supplying weapons to the warring factions in Sudan. Jonathan Acobo reports.
Marhaba. The UAE Ministry of Foreign Affairs made it clear that the country does not take sides in the current conflict in Sudan. Afra Al-Hameli, Director of the Strategic Communications Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said the UAE has not supplied arms and ammunition to any of the warring parties in Sudan since the conflict started in mid-April. She added that the Emirates seeks an end to the conflict through de-escalation, ceasefire, and diplomatic dialogue, as well as respect for Sudan's sovereignty. The UAE was among the first countries to provide humanitarian aid in Sudan when the war broke out. The Gulf country has continued providing relief aid to the Sudanese people, including a $50 million aid for the affected and displaced, and 2,000 tons of medical, food, and relief materials. A field hospital was also set up in northern Chad for Sudanese refugees, with 4,147 patients treated so far. The Emirati official said the UAE continues to monitor the humanitarian situation in Sudan and its impact on neighboring countries. Tajublak Al-Mazmin Haditi at Karim Nibay Kanana Jotan Kobol Zmay News na the Arab Emirates.
Negotiations are underway to release American prisoners jailed in Iran in exchange of access to billions of dollars in Iranian assets blocked under U.S. sanctions. Melchizedek reports.
A gunman entered the popular Shah Cheragh shrine in the southern city of Shiraz on Sunday, leaving 4 people dead and 8 others injured. Videos of the incident showed people running in panic and others closing their shops. A local media network reported that ISIS had claimed responsibility for the attack. Authorities arrested one of the suspected gunmen while other assailant managed to escape. The deadly attack took place months after ISIS also claimed responsibility for the attack on the same shrine on October 26, 2022, when a lone gunman with an automatic rifle opened fire, which killed 13 people and injured 40 others. The worst assault took place in 2017 when ISIS stormed the parliament and a mausoleum that killed at least 18 people and wounded more than 50 in Tehran. Iran has supported Syrian President Bashar Assad during his country's civil war and fought Islamic State fighters both there and in Iraq. Reporting this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
Tunisia and Libya have agreed to share responsibility in providing shelter for some 300 sub-Saharan African migrants who have been stranded along their border where they face difficulties due to the hostile terrain. Many of them have been there for a month. Adnan Chokaki has more.
Tunisia has taken in 76 men, 42 women and 8 children from the group of migrants stranded at its border with Libya. The groups were transferred on Wednesday to reception centers in the cities of Tataouine and Medellin. They were then given medical and psychological care through the help of the Tunisian Red Crescent. Libya will take in the remaining 150 migrants.
Tunisia and Libya are both victims of the migrant crisis, which threatens the whole region. The deal is now effective and all migrants have been transferred from the border areas to safe zones inside Tunisia and Libya. This crisis has ended, but the flow of migrants will never stop.
Tunisian Interior Minister Cablelink said his country will not accept to be used as a transit point for undocumented migrants. It's also not willing to host such illegal migrants. The irregular migrants who had been stranded on the border with Libya will only be hosted in temporary facilities and not in camps.
Tunisia does not accept the principle of hosting irregular migrants permanently. Opening migrant camps on Tunisian soil is the first step before hosting them indefinitely. These camps will only attract more waves of migrants and increase the flow of irregular migration.
In 2013, Tunisia and the UNHCR closed the Shusha camp in the southern part of the country. At the peak of the migrant-refugee crisis in 2011 and 2012, the camp was receiving up to 1,800 people from Libya a day. Tunisian authorities say they will not allow this scenario to happen again.
These migrant camps are usually run by the civil society and NGOs, and the Tunisian state would have no control over large swaths of land. Controlling and securing migrant camps would be impossible. This situation could facilitate the work of criminal networks which specialize in trafficking in persons and human organs.
Tunisian and Libyan authorities have already stepped up their efforts to control the flow of migrants. Both sides have agreed on the need for more coordination and bilateral cooperation in the field of security, intelligence sharing, training, and combating organized crime. Many Tunisian and Libyan activists believe the deal between Tunis and Tripoli will end the suffering of hundreds of migrants, including women and children. Meanwhile, official sources say at least 80,000 sub-Saharan African migrants are living in Tunisia and more are believed to reside in Libya. Adnan Chokaki, CGTN, Tunis.
3 days after Ecuadorian presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio was killed, the ringleader of a notorious gang in Ecuador was transferred to a maximum security prison. This report from Margaret Percasio.
At the break of dawn last Saturday, around 4,000 troops and soldiers took part in an operation to transfer Jose Adolfo Macias, alias Fido, to a maximum security prison in Guayaquil, Ecuador. Macias is the ringleader of the criminal gang Los Chineros, known for carrying out extortions, murders, contract killings, drug trafficking, and other crimes. In a footage released by Ecuador's police, the prisoner is seen with a long beard and topless, heavily guarded in the operation which lasted 8 hours all in all. To note, Macias had been moved to La Roca, a 150-person maximum security prison that is still part of the same large penitentiary complex he was already in since 2011. Reports say that Macias had controlled at least one cell block in the said prison where he was transferred from. And according to a statement from the Ecuadorian government, 3,400 grams of marijuana, 937 grams of cocaine, 147 bullets, 195 fireworks, and other unauthorized items such as refrigerators, freezers, air conditioners, speakers, sound equipment, and cell phones were seized during the operation. Macias was also alleged to have made death threats to presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio, who was known for being vocal against corruption and drugs, before being assassinated Wednesday last week as he was leaving a campaign rally. Before his murder, Villavicencio said that he had been threatened by Fito. Meanwhile, over the weekend, the political party of Villavicencio has picked Andrea Gonzalez to replace the slain presidential candidate just days ahead of the election that is set to take on the 20th of August. As of now, authorities have not yet announced any confirmed links between Macias or his gangs to Villavicencio's assassination. However, investigations are still ongoing. This is Margaret Parkash reporting, SMNI News.
Hungary faces police recruitment and retention crisis. More policemen in Budapest are turning in their badges than ever before. Long work hours and some of the lowest salaries for law enforcement officers in the European Union have diminished the morale of the rank and file. The shortage of patrol officer is a concern for many who worry it could lead to a spike in crime. Pablo Gutierrez tells us more.
Kalman Horvat no longer walks his police beat. For 8 years, he wore the uniform of the Budapest Police Department and patrolled some of the toughest streets in the city. He says he became disillusioned with the work conditions at the department and had to make a choice between doing the job he loved or earning a better living.
If you don't have, for example, a partner or a wife, or you are not living with some other colleagues and share the codes, then I think I can say it's impossible.
Horvat is not alone. Currently, there are 4,500 vacancies in the force, according to the Budapest Police Union. It says some of those posts might never be filled if salaries are not improved. The union claims some city districts have 25% fewer officers compared to the number of policemen on patrol just 2 years ago.
Compared to other European countries, the police profession is not respected as it should be by our legislators. There is a lack of training. We used to have hazard insurance in case of injuries or deaths, but even that is gone.
Police officers in Hungary are among the lowest paid in the European Union. The starting salary is just $730 a month compared to the EU average of $3,000 a month for new officers. But the Budapest Police Department says its officers received a 10% pay increase 2 years ago and is working to increase its current staffing levels. They indicate that the number of patrols on city streets is sufficient to ensure public safety and the well-being of their officers. Low wages are not the only reasons why many police officers say they are quitting. Hungary's government changed the age of retirement. Previously, officers could start receiving their pensions at the age of 50. Now they must remain on the force until they're 65. Horvat has picked up a new beat since he left the force and turned his passion for Argentine tango into a profitable business.
I'm selling every kind of dance shoes for hobby dances, Latin dances, ballroom dances, but mostly Argentine tango shoes and Argentine tango fashion.
With his police days behind him, Horvat says the only beat he now wants to follow is on the dance floor. Pablo Gutierrez, CGTN, Budapest.
Senator Christopher Bongo lauded the Senate approval of his Regional Specialty Service Act, which garnered 24-0 votes, meaning all senators, including the opposition, have agreed on the establishment of specialty health centers across the Philippines for the poor and indigent Filipinos. Precious Alvarez has the details.
Senator Christopher Bongo, who chairs the Senate Committee on Health, says his Senate Bill number 1321, or the Specialty Centers in Every Region Act of 2022, which aims to establish regional specialty centers in Department of Health hospitals all over the Philippines, was approved with no opposition. With this, Go said that the government will be putting up 70 specialty centers in all DOH regional hospitals across the country, including heart, kidney, lung, orthopedic, mental, and neonatal centers, among others. In terms of budget, the senator said that the project is a multi-year plan, which means it has a budget every year, noting that the estimated cost of building the regional specialty centers nationwide is at 76 billion pesos from 2024 to 2028.
It's a multi-year plan. Ibig sabihin, 2024 may budget, 2025 may budget, 2026 may budget po ito. 17 na specialty centers po nito, including heart, kidney, lung, ortho, mental, neonatal, at iba pa. Halimbawa, sa Zamboanga, wala silang cardiovascular, maglalagay doon para hindi na nila kailangan magbiyahe ng Davao o ng Manila para magpagamot sa heart center. Doon na po sa Zamboanga. Sa SPMC naman, meron ng cardiovascular, may heart center na sila, dadagdagan pa po ng iba't ibang mga specialty center. Sa tanong nyo naman, may budget ba nito? Estimated cost po ng pagpapatayo ng regional specialty centers nationwide is 76 billion mula po 2024 to 2028. Yan po ang target. Depende po yan, every year pupondohan po yan ng ating gobyerno. Kami sa Senado, isusulong natin yan. At sa 2025, meron naman pong target nila na i-allocate na 17 billion mula sa ADB. At remaining will be funded from the GAA. Ibig sabihin, it's a multi-year plan po yan na pondo po ng gobyerno.
For next year, the government will be allocating 8 billion pesos that will be sourced out from the DOH budget. Go said that with the approval of the bill, places such as Zamboanga that lacks cardiovascular center will now have access to its own heart center, and people, especially the poor and indigents, no longer have to travel to Davao City or Metro Manila to seek treatment, which is a great help in lowering their medical expenses. The senator also expressed his Senator Christopher Bongo, who chairs the Senate Committee on Health, says his Senate Bill number 1321, or the Specialty Centers in Every Region Act of 2022, which aims to establish regional specialty centers in Department of Health hospitals all over the Philippines, was approved with no opposition. With this, Go said that the government will be putting up 70 specialty centers in all DOH regional hospitals across the country, including heart, kidney, lung, orthopedic, mental, and neonatal centers, among others. In terms of budget, the senator said that the project is a multi-year plan, which means it has a budget every year, noting that the estimated cost of building the regional specialty centers nationwide is at 76 billion pesos from 2024 to 2028.
It's a multi-year plan. Ibig sabihin, 2024 may budget, 2025 may budget, 2026 may budget po ito. 17 na specialty centers po nito, including heart, kidney, lung, ortho, mental, neonatal, at iba pa. Halimbawa, sa Zamboanga, wala silang cardiovascular, maglalagay doon para hindi na nila kailangan magbiyahe ng Davao o ng Manila para magpagamot sa heart center. Doon na po sa Zamboanga. Sa SPMC naman, meron ng cardiovascular, may heart center na sila, dadagdagan pa po ng iba't ibang mga specialty center. Sa tanong nyo naman, may budget ba nito? Estimated cost po ng pagpapatayo ng regional specialty centers nationwide is 76 billion mula po 2024 to 2028. Yan po ang target. Depende po yan, every year pupondohan po yan ng ating gobyerno. Kami sa Senado, isusulong natin yan. At sa 2025, meron naman pong target nila na i-allocate na 17 billion mula sa ADB. At remaining will be funded from the GAA. Ibig sabihin, it's a multi-year plan po yan na pondo po ng gobyerno.
For next year, the government will be allocating 8 billion pesos that will be sourced out from the DOH budget. Go said that with the approval of the bill, places such as Zamboanga that lacks cardiovascular center will now have access to its own heart center, and people, especially the poor and indigents, no longer have to travel to Davao City or Metro Manila to seek treatment, which is a great help in lowering their medical expenses. The senator also expressed his appreciation to the Marcos administration for supporting his legislative measures.
Masaya po ako dahil priority po ito ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos yung maglalagay ng mga specialty centers all over the country.
Senator Bongo was in Davao City as a guest of honor in the National Hospital Week celebration of the Southern Philippines Medical Center, which also houses some of the country's specialty centers such as Cancer Institute, Mindanao Heart Center, Kidney Transplant Institute, Orthopedic and Rehab Institute, among others. Also has the Malasakit Center, which mainly caters to poor and indigent Filipinos, not just those from Davao City, also from the neighboring provinces and cities. Reporting for the Weekender World, Precious Alvarez, SMNI News.
SMNI workers showcase their talent and skills in the annual Workers' Olympics launch on Sunday. Let's find out more about this event with Hannah Jane Sancho.
Every year, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy never forgets to give a meaningful break to workers of the Sunshine Media Network Area National, or SMNI. This unforgettable event is also an opportunity for SMNI employees to showcase their talent in sports, music, dancing, and many more. And this is why this 2023, the network launched a more bigger, better, and grander event, the SMNI Workers' Olympics. And every month of August, workers dedicate their weekends to participate in different events. Sunday marked the official opening of this year's Workers' Olympics that composed of month-long activities. Various departments were divided into 6 teams, all of them engaged in a friendly competition held at the Marikina Sports Center.
Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, I now proclaim the Workers' Olympics 2023 open!
Workers first showcase their talent in the power dance competition. SMNI did not also forget to show the diversity and uniqueness of Filipino culture during the folk dance competition. From the Bulaklakan folk dance of the committed team, Pag-Appear by the loyal team, Karatong folk dance of Overcomer team, Alitap-Tap folk dance of dedicated team, Maranao's single folk dance of the obedient team, and the Reggaetones of the faithful team. Well-known personalities like OFW Party List Representative Marisa Delmar Magsino, Attorney Salvador Panelo, and former National Security Advisor General Hermogenes Esperon Jr. graced the event as part of the panel of judges of the SMNI Workers Olympics. Workers of SMNI News also showed their passion for sports, from the basketball competition, table tennis, badminton, 100 dash, men's and women's division, 400 meter dash, men's and women's division, and 400 meter relay, men's and women's division. Workers also demonstrated their skills in swimming for the men's and women's division. Meanwhile, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy congratulated all the SMNI workers for the successful opening of this year's Olympics.
The second SMNI Workers Olympics at the Marikina Sports Center, attended by more than 1,000 full-time miracle workers assigned in various departments in the administration, human resource and management development, sales and marketing, production, pre- and post-production, creatives, engineering, regional stations, general services, and transportation. They are divided into 6 teams. Team Faithful, violet. Team Committed, yellow. Team Overcomer, red. Team Dedicated, green. Team Loyal, fuchsia. Team Obedient, blue. The event is attended also by former National Security Advisor General Hermogenes Esperon, by OFW Party List Congressman Marisa Magsino, and of course, Attorney Salvador Panelo. Various competitions include power dance, folk dance, badminton, basketball, table tennis, swimming, track and field competition. We thank our very good friend, that's the Olympics, Kingdom Olympics. Mayor Marcy Teodoro, how are you? Thank you.
On the other hand, Marikina Mayor Marcy Teodoro also extended his thanks to Pastor Apollo for choosing Marikina Sports Center as the opening venue of SMNI's grand event.
Pastor, maraming salamat po sa patuloy na biyaya. We're very happy you'll have the Sports Fest of SMNI here in Marikina Sports Center. Maraming salamat po sa mga dalangin, maraming salamat po sa patnubay. Your advisors are very crucial in our governance in the city. Maraming salamat po.
The 2023 SMNI Workers Olympics will continue next week, where all workers will participate in more sports events such as basketball, volleyball for men's and women's division, as well as indoor games and music festival. For God and my beloved country, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
In the latest episode of Spotlight, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy said it is his goal for the Philippines to be a first world superpower country, and that overseas Filipino workers will return to the Philippines and be patriotic. More of this report from Sara Santos.
May goal ako. No, may goal ako. Ay mawa sa bansang Pilipinas, may goal ako.
Ang goal ko, ang bansang Pilipinas maging superpower. Wow. Ang goal ko, maging first world country tayo. Ang goal ko, maging independent tayo sa ating lahat ng desisyong gagawin. Basta't ikabubuti ng ating bansa at wala akong papayagang manghihimasok para madiskaril ang ating goal na ating tinataguyod at tinatangkilik.
This was the introductory message of Pastor Apollo C. Quiboloy in the latest episode of Spotlight on Monday, August 14th. The said episode centered on Pastor Apollo's vision for the country, which involves all overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, the Philippines' modern-day heroes, to return to the Philippines and find work domestically. This is similar to the wish of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos when he gave his second State of the Nation address on the 24th of July, and he said, and I quote, "It is our wish that one day foreign employment will be driven by choice, not by necessity." The Philippine Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, reported at the end of July 2023 that there is an estimated 2.3 million overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, working abroad, according to recent data DOLE has gathered from the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA. Unfortunately, not all of the Philippines' modern-day heroes are given good working conditions abroad. Some face difficult situations and are abused by their employers, while some work longer hours than what is stated in their contract. In worse stories, others even get raped and murdered, like in the case of Julie Biranara in Kuwait, as reported earlier this year. Part of the reason why Pastor Apollo said,
"Ang goal ko, ang lahat ng Pilipino, OFWs, bumalik na sa bansang Pilipinas. At dito na sila makahanap ng trabaho. Para wala na yung problema natin na para tayong mga pabiktima palagi."
Meanwhile, as of now, the Philippines is currently the second largest rice importing country in the world, with 3.9 million metric tons of rice imports in the 2022-2023 marketing year, as shown in the data from Statista. In line with this, Pastor Apollo also wishes for the Philippines to be the #1 rice-producing country in the world.
Gusto ko, sa goal ko, ang Pilipinas maging rice-producing country, #1. Rice-producing country in the world na hindi na ako mag-i-import pa. Pwede ako mag-export, pero hindi ako mag-i-import. Sa kagandahan ng ating bansa, gusto ko ang lahat ng klaseng prutas nandirito makikita sa bansang ito.
Fruit basket.
Goal ko yun. Di ang lahat ng mga Pilipinong merong ganong pagdamdamin, halika kayo lahat, makisama tayo sa goal na ito. At hanggang hindi natin ma-achieve ito, hindi tayo hihinto.
Furthermore, Pastor Apollo talked about true patriotism, patriotic in heart and only for the Philippines.
At ang goal ko, lahat ay maging patriotic ang Pilipino.
Amen.
Unang-una, patriotic sa puso, na para lang talaga sa Pilipinas sila. Kaibigan natin ng lahat, pero hindi tayo tuta ni numan.
Yes.
Pero kaibigan natin lahat.
Amen.
Pero never, ang goal ko, maging tuta ang Pilipino kanino man.
Yes.
At sila ay naglilingkod sa interes ng ibang mga lahi kaysa interes ng kanilang bansa. Yun ang aking pangunahing goal.
Amen.
Na kung ano ang nakita nilang maganda sa ibang bansa, itong lahat ay mailipat dito. At ang kung ano ang nakita nila, bakit sila doon pumupunta at nag-invest, dapat makita nila dito at dito na sila bumalik.
Amen.
Yan ang tunay na pagkakaroon ng dignidad para sa ating mga sarili. Na hindi na tayo kukulangin pa sa pinansyal. Na kung sasabihin mong yung bansang yon pinakamayaman, gusto ko mas mayaman pa ang Pilipinas doon.
Wow.
Yun ang goal ko.
These are all similar to Pastor Apollo's vision for the kingdom nation. The good pastor stressed the importance of having a direction and a goal, because as the word of God says, without vision, the people perish.
Ganon din ang goal ko sa bansang Korea. Kaya nakikita ninyo, ang bansang Korea may direksyon.
Yes.
Merong goal. Merong short-term goal, may long-term goal. Ang bansang Korea. May tinatahak akong blueprint para makuha ko yung goal na yun. And when we have that goal, when we have that vision, the Word of God says, what your mind can conceive, you can achieve. I'm talking faith na. Yung iba siguro hindi nakakaintindi kung ano yung pananampalataya. Pananampalataya is calling the things that are not as though they are. At ang Bible din na nagsasabi, without vision, the people perish.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Sarah Santos, SMNI News.
And before we end, may be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. I have peace because the Father is with me. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit SMNINewsChannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and for my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching Newsline World. And thank you to our beloved pastor, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, for the opportunity to be part of this program. May you continue to listen on SMNI as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source of credible